Hello and welcome to another Agoners battle report. We're back again with some more Ninth Age fantasy battles, and we're playing another Essence of War game here. As you can see, I am not on the camera today, starting off a little bit differently. I thought I'd just explain. I know most people probably know where to get all this kind of stuff, but here you go. In case you don't know, you just go to your browser, go to the ninthage.com, and if you want to play Essence of War, also known as the Quick Play system, you can just click this button here, which takes you to a quick place, and you can download all the things you might want. If you really want to get more involved, you can go to the downloads here, go to quick play, and then you'll get absolutely everything there, including some of these papercraft patrols, which are very nice if you are brand new and want to get started and you don't have any miniatures and things like that. But in the actual rulebook, which you can click and download free, you will get, of course, all the different patrols that you can start in the basic game, and we are still working on the advanced rules, but we do have a bunch of army lists there already in the advanced rules. You can see there's a few of them available right now. Hopefully, I'm going to get onto some advanced rules games in the near future, but for now, like if you wanted to see what's the Orcs and Goblins got, you can click that. There we go, Orcs and Goblins and some other guys. So, right, without further ado, let's get into my little battle report. So yes, I really am here. Hello. Yes, it is me. Yeah, no, only small camera. This battle was played about a week ago, actually, so it won't be completely fresh in my mind. But I've been playing a lot of games of this of Essence of War. It's been really good. Been taking it down to the games club here in Sheffield, where I live, and this was actually a game against an old but new player. So this is a friend of mine called James, who very similarly to me kind of got out of wargaming about 10 plus years ago and had just sort of got back into it. Well, I messaged him saying, "Oh, do you fancy a game of this? I've not seen you in." This is about 15 years we'd not seen each other or something crazy. We were like, "Will we still recognise each other?" But we did. We still knew, and it was all good. And it was nice to meet up again over some miniatures and have a little game like this. So, as you can see, I've not gone through the armies, the patrols this time because we've talked about them before on this channel. So, skip back to some older videos if you'd like to know more about them, or download the rules because they are fixed patrols, so you know what you're getting basically. So hopefully you can see all this. So we've got my this is my deployment. So what I did, because I'm quite experienced now at Essence of War, I wanted to actually to like pick. I think one of my well for teaching new players, I think deploying first is quite difficult if you're brand new to the game. So I thought, well, I'll always deploy first when I'm playing against someone who's new, when I'm not new. So that was part of my thing. I said I'll just deploy first no matter what. And also I've picked the Orcs and Goblins patrol because they are one of the more slightly unreliable patrols, let's say. So they're quite hard to play with, and things can go south and hurry. Sometimes you can make mistakes or just get unlucky with them, and it's not great. So, but you know, as a kind of equalize things, I thought that would be a nice way to do it. Not sure if you see my mouse pointer on the screen, but at the top of the board, I have deployed my Goblin Wolf Raiders. I've got my General Shaman here within 12 inches of them, and also the Goblin block, which is far forward up. And we've got my Orc block here. So pretty sort of normal deployment, I guess, for Orcs and Goblins. I should point out I am up against the Empire of Sonstal, which James is playing with. So again, I'm kind of worried about his shooting options here with both his magic and his gunners. Did consider deploying the shaman in the orc block, which might have been an idea, not sure. But anyway, this was my deployment, and we'll quickly move on. We've got that was that note for a little shot of them down the line. I like taking these little down the line shots, try and look cool. As you can see, we're playing this in my house, so I've got a nice little backdrop here. This is a little overview after James is deployed, and we'll just go through his guys. So yeah, here, nice look at his models. Really, these are all his own models, by the way. His wizard is hiding in the wood behind the handgunners, so you can't see it. But that we are getting the mouse on screen. Brilliant. So the wizard is hidden there behind the handgunners. These are all old metal miniatures. So some of these are as old as mine. Some of them even older than some of my models. So really cool that James has his own miniatures, which is pretty. And that yeah, these are really nice actually. Very nicely painted. These guys, it's obviously some old classic GW stuff across the board here. But yeah, and although I maybe should have lent him my movement trays because I didn't realize this until we started playing, and it was like, oh, he's got movement trays. But he's also done a similar thing to me, magnetizing them all down. But obviously, a lot of his games that we've played in the past together, we were on much bigger units. So yeah, in Essence of War, I guess not a lot of people have these very small movement trays that you need for it. But he has got a nice one for the handgunners there. So yeah, we'll go back to the overview just slightly. So yeah, he's chosen to counter deploy a little bit here. He's put, excuse me, he's put his handgunners in the woods, sort of opposite my goblins. Now the goblins do have bows, and I would fancy this shoot out normally, but the gunners are in the woods, so that's quite a nice little counter deploy there. So even though this shoot off would normally favour the goblins because the handgunners don't have any armour and things like that, so they're not that great at being shot at themselves, especially when there's only 10 of them. Whereas the goblins, although they're obviously taking more damage from the handguns, they've got 20 bodies, so they can easily sustain that firepower for longer without getting too damaged. You would think. But yeah, he's also counter deployed. So obviously I've tried to send my Wolf Raiders potentially up this flank here to get some kind of flanking position. I put them a little bit far back because there's no way, even though I know I've got the first turn, I don't want to even risk getting them anywhere near any shooting because what's the point? Um, and I say, because I knew I had the first turn, I was like, well, I can put them a bit back, see how he goes. I can still get easily halfway up the board with them with their vast movement rate, march rate. So, and then he's kind of put but again, he's counter deployed with his own cavalry, which will, generally speaking, destroy these wolf raiders if they get in a fight with each other. So I don't really want that. Like, I've got a small chance of maybe winning it on the charge, but it's not really in their favour. And he's got the guys in the wood, wizard behind them, ready to pop out and do some damage. Obviously, he knows he's going second, so he's not letting me get any line of sight to his wizard with any shooting or anything at this point. So smart deploy already from James. You can tell this guy is a veteran gamer, and he's got his Imperial Guard block here opposite the objective. Maybe wanting to try and push forward, maybe get some. They should beat up the goblins. But the big ace on the orc side that I felt I had going into this battle was I have got my orc block is pretty hefty, especially in the first round of combat when they get born to fight. So we'll go into orcs and goblins turn one. Moving swiftly on. Oh, another quick shot down the line. We couldn't get a beautiful shot, but there is just proof that there is his wizard down there looking very nice. Oh, again, James is all his own models here, so really cool. Someone else getting the painted models coming to my house. That was excellent. So I even bothered on the first turn. I'm sadly I didn't continue this, but I put down the movement arrows so you can see what I did. I did a full march forward with the orcs. I have kept the majority of the unit in the wood though, just in case any of these cheeky shots, if he does want to shoot me with the handgunner. So I'm not too worried. I do kind of want this orc block pretty unscathed going into combat is my hopes. And they should be able to pretty much take on anything in the Empire Sun style force. That's kind of this small advantage the orcs and goblins have in this battle. Having that one strongest unit, I've talked about this before, having the kind of best melee unit on the field. Not that they're that much better than some of these units, especially the Imperial Guard. That's pretty close fight. Could come down to who charges who, for example, on who gets the odds. But especially if they've not lost a rank yet, they're undamaged. They're going to be steadfast against the Imperial Guard. Like, they should be able to beat them. Especially if they win the charge, and especially if they're not taking any damage. So I've marched them all up, hoping to get that fight going. The goblins, I kind of thought about it. I was like, well, if I move, shoot long range, I can't even hit these handgunners now. They're in the wood, so there was no point in that. I could have took some pot shots at the Imperial Guard, but again, it would have been moving and long range, so hitting on sixes, and they've got really good armor, of course. I was like, that's not bother. Let's just march up, get them in a good position so these two units can support each other, and then my shaman can push forward to get everyone within 12 inches. And still keeping within 12 inches, but actually just doing a sidestep was my Wolf Raiders. But I talked about this, like throwing them in unnecessarily. Like, there's no point pushing forward and getting potentially charged by the cavalry because I'm just going to have to flee that. And then I want them to be a pain. So I'm trying to keep them back, keep them a threat. Obviously, they've potentially got a charge in even from that distance. Like, they might be able to get a charge in to defend the goblins' flank, but not really any opportunities there. So that's my turn one. We go into the magic phase. I've got no shooting, of course, because my goblins have marched. I did manage to shoot, so I've moved my wizard so I can see down this line of sight here, and I can see these handgunners. So they were my target for my swarm of insects spell. So again, two spells each. And you can't really. That's another shot of the battlefield. You can see the dice sort of like carefully balancing my orc guys on here. So that was a little bit tricky, but it worked out all right. Unfortunately, most of my trees come out off these forest bases, so they do work quite well. but unfortunately one of the larger tree stumps was right where they wanted to be. So to balance them on the tree stump, we used some little dice stacks there. But these movement trays, these are plastic models, thankfully for this anyway. But that was all pretty safe, to be honest. We've got that one balanced very nicely. My swarm of insects, that's a bit advancing on, but we couldn't see it. But it did kill one of the handgunners with a swarm of insects, so was successful in casting that. So not amazing. I mean, I took that chance moving a wizard out, kind of knowing this might be a little bit risky, um, because he might shoot back at me. But what I've tried to do is make sure that as few of the handgunners could see me as possible. So I think I've got it. So there's like one rank of them, or one file of those guys, rather, I should say, that can see back on my shaman. Maybe two files, but I was like, I'm willing to take 4 shots, maybe 2 shots. But then I was like, well, maybe he's going to try and silver spike me, and that's quite good against my shaman actually. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. Whether this is a good move. We'll get into this as we go on. Anyway, but onto the Empire Assange style turn one then. So he does move up fully, a full march forward with these Imperial Guard, which I thought was a very bold maneuver. Has moved up the cavalry to presenting no flanks though. So again, even if I try to do a long charge of my Wolf Raiders, they're probably not going to win in the front, of course, because the Wolf Raiders lose to everything in the front. They have to get a flank charge really to do any threat to anything on the board in this battle. So again, but yeah, pushing up, stands still with the handgunners, and then does move this wizard to do what I was hoping he wouldn't do. But he's seen it. He's wanting that silver spike pot shot down the middle, and of course these cavalry are very well positioned, protecting the flanks, not presenting any flank arcs to me, but also protecting the flanks of his Imperial Guard. Handgunners and wizard standing back to shoot, and we would have the magic phase, and the silver spike would be launched down. That as another little overview shot for you. Yeah, the silver spike would be launched. It would hit my shaman, and it would hit twice because he's got multiple hit points. And as you would expect, 2 damaging hits on 2s. Again, I didn't manage to stop the spell. That wasn't great for me, and this is probably something I regret maybe in the game. So yeah, like although I knew he couldn't kill my shaman, but then unfortunately did of course leave me on 1 hit point left. So that was a pretty risky point to be at for my poor beautiful. I mean, it is Sabu, I think. I've forgotten the names of my shaman. I should write them down, really, shouldn't I? But yeah, this is my guy. Avatars of War miniature, of course, really nice miniature. So yeah, wasn't too happy about that. Then the shoot-in came down. He didn't choose to try and pick off that final wound on the shaman because it would have been very hard to get any damage on him. He'd have to get quite lucky and even get any hits because he had very few shots, as I say, because of the way I positioned him. Did unleash the full fury of 5s to hit, 3s to damage and wound, and oh my goodness, rips an entire rank off these goblins. What a roll there. So James is rolling, getting very good already. So it's a great first turn for the Empire Assange, really. I did pass my panic check, which was on a discipline 8, of course, because that even then, undamaged goblin unit, you would not expect that. But my goodness, that was some fancy shooting from the Empire Assange style. So yeah, and then we'd move into the Orcs and Goblins turn 2, and there is already a charge, as you can see. I could see the way this battle was heading. I was like, especially that amount of shooting on turn 1, I need to get stuck in. I've got an undamaged Orc unit. I've got a matchup I want. I think I can win this on the charge. He will not be steadfast, right? This is perhaps a mistake, I would say, from James. Like, I don't think he could have given me a charge, but given me a longer charge where it would more likely I'd fail it would have been probably a safer play. I think I had this on a 7 or an 8, so it was pretty good odds I would make that charge. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a 7 actually. So yeah, maybe a little bit gung ho with his Imperial Guard might have been the only thing I would have said that was maybe like a again with the Emperor Sun style army. Although because they are so good at shooting relative to most other patrols, there's kind of not that incentive to get stuck in. But James has gone for it, so we're going to have to play this one out. So I've got this big charge in. Pretty good about this. Now I am aware, of course, that I might not break them. And I might get flanked, but I'm hoping that I will remain steadfast. If I either kill enough of these guys or I don't lose enough orcs, I know I'm going to take a discipline 8 check. So we did consider this, this was all kind of planned ahead. Like I wasn't like foolishly going. It's like, one, I have to take this chance to try and knock off one of the best melee unit. This is say we talked about it. Of course, I got to the magic phase. My wizard decided to move out the way because he did not want any chance of anything more shooting coming his way. He is kind of angled so he can see out a little bit towards this side. The goblins decide to stay put. And I had a bit of a choice here. I could take some shots at the wizard, but I don't think everyone could see him once again, or I could take full shooting into the woods on the handgunners. I did decide to go for, and I just did, yeah, a little shuffle with the Wolf Raiders. They didn't do very much. Did decide to shoot the handgunners, so I did kill another one. So not great, but doing little plinky plinks there from the Goblin Archers. Of course, even though there's only 15 of them left, they've still only got the 10 shots because only the first two ranks can shoot. The Orcs make this charge, as we say, in they go. I was on a 9, so I got a 9. I think I needed a 7 or an 8, so that was a successful roll. Again, I was pretty happy even if they failed it, because I'm like, I need to get this fight going. If they fail it, they wouldn't end up in too bad shape. Again, it would maybe ended up with the Imperial Guard or the cavalry charging my goblins. I could have, of course, sent in both units. I could have tried to multi-charge them, but I didn't want to end up with... There's a lot that could go wrong if I did that, because if they both successfully charge, that's bad news for me, really, because the Imperial Guard will just hit back against these more easy to damage goblins and hit and I don't really want that. And then also so that doesn't really help. This is one of the interesting things in Essence of War and Ninth Age in general. If two units are going in the front of an enemy unit, like if one of the units is significantly weaker than the other one and there's no particular bonuses for charging, like if you had lances or something, maybe you'd consider it, but like sending a weak unit and a stronger unit both into the front of an enemy unit doesn't necessarily help you very much in that combat. Of course, getting a flank, everything changes. That's where you do want the 2 to 1. So again, I am obviously worried about that. Should these Imperial Guard hold, I've got worry about this flank charge potentially coming in from this Imperial Electoral Cavalry next turn. But yeah, this is why I didn't send in the Goblins. Again, worst case scenario, the Orcs could have failed the charge, the Goblins could have made it in on their own, and they do not like that fight. I do not want a melee fight with the Goblins against the IG. That would be a bad times for the Goblins, most likely, to be honest. The odds are not in their favour in that battle. So yeah, but I did get this charge off, and what a combat phase it was for me, ladies and gentlemen. This is where James's great rolling on turn 1 turned into my great rolling on turn 2. The Orcs slam in, managed to kill 2 Imperial Guard, which ain't too shabby, and the real thing was Imperial Guard swing back, kill no Orcs whatsoever. So this combat, which I thought would probably going to be a narrowish win to me, was actually a pretty big win. I think I won that by about 4 points, so he's down to a discipline, and he isn't steadfast because I've got more ranks than him. So this is probably going to end in disaster for the Empire Sonnenstahl, unless he passes a discipline 4 check, which he did. Oh my goodness, what a swing. So if this had been pursued, if I'd managed to break them, I probably would have pursued. I'd have ended up down here, probably out of the flank charge of those cavalry, kind of leaving those cavalry a bit kind of in no man's land. I mean, maybe they'll have a long charge against the goblins, but that would be dicey. And they're not great against the goblins, to be honest, because there's not enough of them. That fight could go against them if they take the goblins in the front. I mean, I guess they then would have been vulnerable to a flank charge from the handgunners, but I'd be steadfast. I wouldn't be too worried about. Oh no, sorry, I wouldn't be steadfast. That wouldn't have been great. So maybe I would have had to hold and turn. I'm not sure what I would have done, but anyway, I really wanted the chance to just take out that unit, and it was not to be. Sadly, the Imperial Guard would maintain. On the discipline 4. So there we go. You can make these high rolls, these low rolls sometimes, unlikely odds, but that's the way it goes. So onto the Empire of Sonnenstahl. Oh, and of course my wizard managed to cast absolutely nothing. That was the bit we kind of skipped over there. Did attempt to cast, I think I 5-diced. Yeah, I mulled this one over quite a lot actually. So I think it was a 5 plays 4 phase, which was not what I wanted because I really wanted to try and get off a good spell. But yeah, 5 plays 4. I think it was about 50-50 odds it would end up essentially being a 5 plays 4 because I wasn't going to try and cast my Swarm of Insects because I had nothing in line of sight from behind the hill. So the only spell I had was my Awaken the Beast, and that would have buffed my Orcs even more. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't think it mattered too much because they did get those 2 kills, and really it was not losing any Orcs back, which was a really good thing for me. Again, I'm like, well, okay, so now I'm going to get flank charged by the cavalry, but I'm not too worried because I'm pretty sure with no damage on them, they should end up being steadfast still. But onto the Empire Sonnenstahl turn 2 then. Does take that charge with the cavalry. I think it was maybe an auto in it, or maybe you needed 3. It was a very easy charge, so I was like, yeah, I knew that was coming. But here we go, the big scrap in the middle of the board, as I predicted this was going to be. Once I saw the movement phase in the first turn. The goblins now can potentially charge in here, of course. But yeah, and I thought this would end up being a flank plays a flank, and it's all going to be a massive ruckus. And again, I thought this all ended up in my favour, right? I was like, well, again, he's past discipline 4. That's really lucky for James. But like, maybe I can still pull this back, and this scrap overall will probably favour me because I've got the ranks. and over the grind, and maybe I get an Awaken the Beast off next turn, which will really help me actually. Whereas this wizard isn't doing too much, and the handguns aren't doing too much now. We're just going to end up being an all-in melee was my kind of goal. The shooting and magic though, I think there was a failed Silver Spike. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't think he managed to cast Silver Spike. I think, in fact, no, he failed to cast either of his spells once again. So our wizards had a complete duff turn here. Turn two, no magic for either side, which is pretty unusual in Essence of War, to be honest. These wizards were not speaking well with their gods or their magical powers. Were not strong today. Did manage to shoot again against the goblins, still on fives, play threes, and another three goblins down. These handgunners absolutely the MVP right now for the Emperor Sunstone. 8 goblins down. I mean, I'm like, this is ridiculous. How are these goblins they're just getting mown down by the shoot? And then again, they don't think they even had full shots down here. Some were cover shots, some couldn't see, something like that, because there's a small gap to shoot through. But they still got 3 more goblins dead. Amazing shooting. Yeah, this cat. So, but yeah, there we go into this little fight here. Well, I think we get a zoom in on this battle. I killed another, so I got a lot of attacks back, of course. I got some attacks sideways. Did not kill any of the cavalry with their rather good armor saves, because I have not got Born to Fight on, nor Awaken the Beast on. Do have AP1 for the spears, though, so could have maybe got some damage through. But yeah, it did still kill another one, and he only killed 3 orcs. So again, I am still steadfast here, so all looking fine for the Orc and Goblin plan. Um, except for one small problem, I just need to make a Discipline 8 check on the steadfast roll, and I fail it. Unbelievable. So he passes this floor, I pass this fillet, I fail this fillet, and that is pretty much GG for this game. I felt. I mean, I was going to try and do what I could, but that is sometimes these things just happen. And this is Essence of War. It is quite a dice game, you know. That's what happens in these games. I couldn't happen to a better chap, to be honest. It was all good to. I was all kind of finding this quite funny, to be fair. The way the James's rolling was so up and down throughout this game. It was 1 minute it was incredible, 1 minute it was terrible, kind of thing. So it was all fun. It was all just great to have a chat and just have have a drink and play some miniatures again and see James's lovely little models out on the table again. It was all cool. So yeah, it wasn't too miffed about this one. Couldn't happen at a better time really for some bad luck. But yeah, he chose to pursue, sent them this way. Again, I hadn't really considered my flee path here, to be honest, because of the way the last previous turns had played out. I didn't really have any choices, to be fair. I wanted to get those shots with the goblins in instead of moving them. So yeah, and obviously I was planning to charge in with my goblins on my turn. Sadly, my orcs break on the Discipline 8. Both of these chose to pursue towards the goblins because both of them would slam into the goblins if they made it. So yeah, so he went, and this was crazy. So he rode really high with the Imperial Guard and really low with the cavalry. So what ended up happening was the Imperial Guard were going to contact the goblins, not the cavalry, which was a worst case scenario for me. So again, these pursuit rolls, and the orcs did get caught, of course. So the orcs get wiped out on the pursuit and the flee. And then the exact thing that the Empire Sunstar exactly wanted to happen was they wanted to end up with either both units or just the IG hitting the goblins, which I think they needed a 10 or something crazy, and he got it. So they're an absolute perfect set of circumstances. They couldn't have gone better. So the cavalry end up. That's still not perfect positioning for the cavalry. Maybe they'd have been rather off being fighting the goblins as well. But still, like they've ended up a long way back. And then he's ended up with this pursuit, so he's got a charge off here, but it's going to happen in the Orc and Goblin turn. So, as it is my turn next, due to my cunning positioning of the shaman, you can probably guess what's going to happen. My last ditch thing, I have to try this now. I'm already on to I've lost my best unit. It's all going against me. I've got to try for some fluke here. So yes, I do charge in with the shaman in the flank. I've only got 1 hit point left, and he's going to have 2 attacks to try and kill the shaman. If he survives, though, he's bringing it. He's equaling out the charge. So he's got a +1. I've got a +1 for my charge. I'm going to get a +2 for the flanks. Maybe I can kill a couple of these guys. Maybe I stay steadfast. Who knows? Basically, the only chance these goblins are going to get absolutely mulched by these, especially if they've lost so many casualties to the handgunners to this point. Needed the shaman to come in and try and save the day. And we go to the combat phase. Little overview. Yeah, I did maneuver my Wolf Riders back over again. They're in a weird spot here, but we'll see what happens in a minute. Not much doing. Hang on, we'll talk to us about this in a minute. So this is my turn, of course. So yeah, the Wolf Riders shimmy back over with a lot of wheeling and shenanigans, I think. But it was easy. No, I think it was another sidestep. It was very easy. They've got massive movement, of course, so they could do pretty much those kind of moves quite easily. Move into the combat phase. Unfortunately, you might see my shaman model still on the table, but that little skull token there indicates where he died. So yeah, an absolute abject failure for my shaman. And then we'd go to rolling, and once again, the rolling of killing the goblins. I think he killed about 5 again, so incredible. These Empire Sunstyle were just absolutely tearing through this goblin block, even though they've got the light armor and shields, doing absolutely nothing for them. The handgunners were mulching them turn by turn, and it was now the Imperial Guard's turn to mulch them. And they even weren't steadfast by that point. Actually, no, yeah, no, I don't think they were. They still had a rank and things like that, but yeah, unfortunately, discipline 6 or lower. I can't remember what it was, but it was very low to not flee. With the shaman dying, that combat was a huge win to the Imperial Guard. So yep, they pursued again, but didn't catch the goblins this time. But they have moved themselves out of the objective range, and I have got a potential flank charge in from the Wolf Raiders, but of course they'll be steadfast. And then of course this is in my turn. This is what's awful about this is obviously losing a combat in your own turn is a lot worse than losing it in your opponent's turn. So we're actually up to the Empire Sonstal turn next. So even though he pursued, he can now do this and like shimmy. I think he shimmied backwards with the cavalry a little bit. Did a reform and turn to face. So again, no flank charge opportunities for my Wolf Raiders, which is pretty much my only chance at this point. I've lost my general. I've lost everything pretty much. And then obviously there's no one good to shoot at, so James has moved up with the handgunners, wanting to get in the objective range for the last few turns of the game, which he already has. Yes, this is Empire Sonstal turn 3, and yeah, and then he's moved his wizard up to try and do some shooting and some magic onto the Wolf Raiders, since they're the only threat left on the board. Did successfully get off both spells, so all of a sudden the magic comes through, gets a silver spike, kills one, and puts the corruption of tin down. So I did get to use my beautiful token. It's very sad I didn't get to use my Awaken the Beast token at any point during the battle. So yeah, eventually, so last ditch stuff. I'm like, well, the only chance I've got to win this game. I did say I didn't want this fight, even if they were undamaged, and now there's down to 4 of them, even worse for them. But yeah, and a corruption of tin on them. Not a great. The bad fight for the Wolf Raiders versus the Electoral Cavalry has gone from bad to even worse here with the spells on them. But, you know, I've got to take this now. If I charge the Imperial Guard, there's no chance. If I charge the Electoral Cavalry, I do swing first. Maybe I can do something. Maybe I can get really, really fluky, win this combat, break them, panic them. Everything's gravy. Can the Wolf Raiders? I mean, I'm probably still not going to win. That's the crazy thing. Like, even if I charge, break them, and panic them, I probably still don't win this game because the handgunners can just like charge them or shoot them off, and yeah, the odds are still in the favour of the Empire's Sunstall here, even if I get as lucky as I possibly can do from this situation. Which, you know, I go in with the Wolf Raiders. Here they go, They do kill one guy. So I was feeling pretty good about this because they were striking first, of course, against the Electoral Cavalry. But unfortunately, the Electoral Cavalry, even with only 4 guys left, swing back and kill 3 goblins. So once again, Empire Sonstal absolutely murdering goblins was the story of this battle, to be honest, and very swingy discipline rolls. So there we go. Obviously the remaining Wolf Riders down to like discipline. I think it was an auto break. I'm not sure, but no, maybe not. I think I got 1 for the charge, 1 for the kill, 3. So I think I was down to discipline 5. Didn't pass it. Off he goes, running away. I don't think. Oh no, this is Empire Sunstall. So my final turn, we could have played it out. Like, would I rally the goblins? Maybe, but it was all irrelevant because my last turn, all I was going to be doing was doing some rally checks, and the game was over at that point. 3-0. James coming through, coming back to wargaming with a bang, getting a big victory, a massacre over the Orcs and Goblins with the Empire Sonstal. Really good stuff for James. Really good to meet him again, as I say. And that was a little overview. So my question is, though, to the viewers here, like, what did I do wrong? Because there's a couple of things I thought about, like maybe, so even from my deployment, maybe I should have deployed on the other side to make it harder for James to take advantage of the woods. Maybe I should have put my goblins in the woods to start the game, something like that. So maybe create a better shoot-off time against the handgunners. Maybe letting the handgunners deploy in the woods was a bad idea. But again, I wanted these woods to try and protect me on the advance from his shooting, which was the plan, and it kind of worked. It's just that he got very good rolls. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just the dice. Like, I don't think I did anything terribly wrong in this game. Maybe I should have moved up more with the Wolf Raiders. But again, I don't think it would have helped because they're just not a threat to anything unless they get in the sides. Just literally come at me. Like, even the handgunners, if you charge them, they're just gonna lose. Like, there's almost no chance those Wolf Raiders break anything in the front. They're literally just there for flank charges and objective taking. Um, the Orc block, the only thing maybe putting the Shaman in the Orc block to kind of negate the Silver Spike might have been a play. That's like, but then it's very hard if the Shaman's in the Orc block to keep everyone within 12 inches. So I don't know. And the Shaman is more vulnerable. So if you get into melee with the Orcs, you're always going to direct lots of attacks against the Shaman because the Shaman's just as easy to hit and slightly easier to damage because he's got slightly worse armor than the actual regular Orcs because he doesn't have a shield. So yeah, it's a weird one. You don't really want your Shaman getting into combat, to be honest. Like other than cheeky flank charges, like we saw. So yeah, question for the viewers really. What could I have done better? I'm not too sure. I think I played it pretty well, but the dice were just not with me on this day. So GG's anyway. Hopefully you enjoyed the battle report, and I'll keep this one short and sweet, and talk to you another time. Bye.